Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and tonight I'm going to show you a really great recipe for roasted sweet potato Zwieback. Now Zwieback, it means twice baked in German, and I'm making a version of our Zwieback buns. These aren't true Zwieback, this is a version of them. And I'm using roasted sweet potato in them to make it beautiful color, give it a nice taste, as well as feed my yeast to be able to make nice big fluffy buns. Now these make great buns. You can make them in any shape you like, but traditional Zwieback have two little layers. They look kind of like little mushrooms, and they've got a wider little base and another little one on top, a little ball. But they're very, very tasty, and it's a good treat for us for the week. This recipe should make about 2 dozen buns. First things first, I've scalded 2 cups of milk. You can either do it in the microwave or you can do it in a saucepan. And you bring it up just until it almost boils and it's nice and hot. So I'm going to let this cool down for a couple seconds while I get my yeast organized. So in a bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. We tend to use Fleischmann's brand. It's just what we like and what we have available. So that's what I have here, 2 tablespoons of that. Now you want to feed your yeast. Yeast is an actual active organism. It's living and it's hungry. So you're going to add this water to it to let it proof. And proofing is just, it makes sure that it is actually alive. If you have a dead batch of yeast, then it won't bubble and foam, and that's not what you want. But to feed it, you need to give it sugar of some kind. Sometimes we use sugar, sometimes brown sugar, sometimes honey, sometimes molasses. Today I'm going to use molasses with my yeast. There's another part of the recipe that calls for honey, so I'm going to use the molasses because it's going to be easier for me to measure out and get out of a measuring cup if it's added to warm water. So I'm going to put half a cup of warm water, and then I'm going to measure a quarter of a cup of molasses into that cup and add it into here. So I don't want boiling water because boiling water will kill your yeast. You just want nice, warm water. Now if your molasses came out of the refrigerator, you can use water that's even warmer because this is gonna cool it down, okay? And then we're gonna let it proof. Okay, that's half a cup of water, and add a quarter of a cup of molasses to this. Now this should come out nice and easy, and you just wanna stir that together so that the yeast is moistened and that molasses is starting to dissolve in it. Now it's always a good idea to proof your yeast just to make sure that it is alive. If it's not, you're going to have to proof another batch of it from another package. But this is going to sit along the side here just for a couple minutes to get going. You're going to see it starts to form foamy bubbles at the top, and that's all good. Now I've roasted 1 large sweet potato. I'm looking for about 2 cups of mashed sweet potato. But hey, if you only have 1, however much you have is what you've got. So I'm not sure exactly how much this is going to yield, but I'm just using 1 large one, and I've roasted it in the oven at 400 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes until it's knife tender. And you see, if you let it cool, the skin comes off so easily. Now, I'm going to crack up some pepper. Add about a teaspoon. Now, when you're making bread, you do want to add some salt. I'm going to add some salt to this right now while I'm mashing it. You might as well add it to the sweet potatoes, whatever. Give a nice sprinkling up to about, I don't know, I'm going to add probably half a teaspoon total. You probably can add up to 1 teaspoon and be happy, but we always try and cut down on our salt intake. So I'm just going to use a fork, and I'm just going to mash that. And this is mashing really well. I'm going to mix it all together with that pepper and the salt. That's lovely. That was so well roasted that it was so easy to mash up. So I'm using a really large mixing bowl today because it needs to hold at least 10 cups of flour and my other miscellaneous ingredients. So I need also room to be able to knead in this bowl. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to measure out my butter. Half a cup of butter and half a cup of shortening. You can use all butter, you can use all shortening, but I'm going to go half and half today. So I'm just going to use spatula. I'm going to use a 1 cup measuring cup. I'm going to measure half a cup of this and a half a cup of that, all in the same cup. You get the best results when you use ingredients that are all room temperature. So take your eggs out and your butter and things of that nature beforehand. Okay, so that is 1 whole cup of your fat. You could also use bacon fat, you could use chicken lard, you could use whatever it is you have on hand or you prefer. To this bowl, I'm also adding a half a cup of honey. Into this bowl, I'm going to add my slightly cooled milk. This is going to help melt that butter and the shortening evenly. And I'm just going to stir this around so everything does get melted and combined. It smells great. Keep stirring until that's all melted in. In another bowl, I'm going to crack my eggs, and I'm going to lightly beat them. Now I'm going to add them to my sweet potato mixture, and I'm going to mix that together. You want to wait until your sweet potato has cooled off quite a bit, because you don't want to add the eggs to here and have it turn into scrambled eggs. That is not what you want. So make sure it's just nice and warm, or it's cool, and you can add this all together. That's going to loosen up that sweet potato mixture and help it more evenly combine into the rest of this dish. Now, if you're in the fall, it's cold weather, or the winter, and you want to, maybe you're around Thanksgiving or Christmas, you can always add some spices that go along with that. You can add some cinnamon, some ginger, or whatever it is that you have on hand, maybe some cloves, whatever, some pumpkin pie spice, whatever you have. Even cardamom would be very nice with this. Into the large mixing bowl goes the sweet potato and egg mixture. We're going to mix that through together as best we can. And by this point, your yeast should be proofed. And mine sure is happy eating this molasses. So I'm going to show it to you so you know what you're looking for. So my yeast has really proofed up. I only had about that much water in it, and now it's doubled, tripled in size. It's nice and foamy, and it's ready to be added to this mixture. Now get all of it in here. You don't want to waste it. This is what's going to make your buns, your bread, nice and puffy. It's going to help it rise. And mix that all together. Very nice. So basically now you have all the wet ingredients combined, and now it's time to add the dry. Now I'm going to add about half of the flour now, and then we're going to add half of it after we pull it out of this bowl. So here we go. There's 1 cup. I'm using bread flour today. This is going to be about 10 cups of white flour if you're going to use that. I use bread flour. If you wanted to, you could use 4 cups of whole wheat flour and 5 cups of white flour to make this really delicious too. That's 2 cups. Don't lose count. Stir in and then add more. 3 cups, 4 cups, 1 more cup. Okay, so half the flour has been added, and what we're looking for is for this mixture to kind of come loose off the sides of the bowl, just barely enough so that I can get it onto a floured work surface, or you can go ahead and mix everything in here. And if I do it in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down lower so I can actually knead it more properly. Okay, you're going to add 1 cup of flour at a time until you achieve that texture where it's coming off of the sides of the bowl. So that's 6 cups. Okay, I'm going to add 1 more cup. That'll be 7. And I think we'll be there. I'm going to add 1 more cup. Every time you do it is different. You just have to go with it. No worries. This is a sponge at this time. It's just sucking in the flour. There we go. That looks good. So that took 8 cups today. It's still quite moist. You're still going to have to work some more flour in. But I can get it out of the bowl in one piece, and then we're going to knead it on this surface. Now you could knead it in a bowl if you wanted to, but I think I'm going to do it on the counter today. Now I still have 2 more cups of flour to add to this, but I'm going to have to use some bench flour as well. Just have it ready and on hand. You can use your countertop, or you can use a pastry sheet, whatever work surface works best for you. We've got that measured out, 1 more cup. Now I'm going to show you what I mean about this. It's coming off the sides of the bowl. I hope you can see that. Coming off the sides of the bowl, I can grab that whole mess, okay? So out onto my countertop it comes. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle on top some of this extra flour, and we're going to just work this dough. Right now we're developing the gluten, which means it's going to give those nice bubbles that bread gives when it's baked and it's nice and fluffy. You want to develop that gluten. That's what causes those bubbles to form and pull together, like pull apart like that, right? To form those bubbles. So gluten helps that. This is a beautiful dough. It smells so nice. Make sure you keep your surface floured, especially when it's ever so moist still. Okay, work in more of that flour. And when you're kneading, you're just pulling it towards you, pushing it away, turning it a quarter turn. Pulling it, pushing it, quarter turn. Pulling it, pushing it, quarter turn. So you're pulling it over top of itself, pushing it away, and turning. Easy, easy. Constantly keeping your work surface floured. We're gonna knead this for a good 10 minutes until the dough has really stiffened up quite a bit more. Flour, as soon as you start feeling it's extra moist, add more flour. And every time you bake, everything's different. The atmosphere's pressure is different. The moisture in the air is different. So don't be afraid if your recipe is different every time, okay? You might have to add a little bit more or a little bit less flour depending on your day. And depending upon your ingredients as well. Every time you get a sweet potato, it's not the exact same moisture content or sugar content or any of that. Okay, a little bit more. We have one more to add for sure. And then we have to use our noggin to see if we need any more. So just work that extra flour in. I remember watching my grandmother and my mom and my aunts making Zwieback, and boy, they had arm muscles because they do all this by hand. Nowadays you can use a KitchenAid mixer, which I could have used today, but I always think that the old school methods are always the best. Then that dough sticks to the countertop, it gets stuck, then just take a nice sharp knife and scrape that off. Oh, this feels really nice. I think that cooking and baking are very tactile. And I think when you really enjoy cooking, you really enjoy feeling what you're cooking. Using your hands to add spices and really getting in there and getting dirty. That's what makes it fun to me. That's what makes it fun to kids. Now you could add seeds to this bread. You could add flax seeds or chia seeds or sesame seeds or whatever kind of seeds you like, poppy seeds even. But today we're just going with quite a basic recipe. No spices, no seeds. Just straight roasted sweet potato. My grandmother would make a batch of these every couple days. Beautiful. You see how it's starting to hold its own and it's not getting stuck. It has a nice texture. I can feel it's becoming a little bit more firm as I go. It's giving me some resistance. That means I'm developing that gluten, and that's exactly what I want. That's the end of my 10 cups. I'm going to add a little bit more to the bench to make sure that it doesn't stick. And I'm just going to continue kneading. I think I have another 5 minutes to go of kneading. I like to use the heel of my hand to do my pushing. Works your arm muscles, works your back. It's a good workout. Now the dough is still kind of wet. I'm going to continue adding some more flour at a time, little bits at a time, until I feel like it's the right moisture level, I guess. Still just a little bit sticky. The machine can't tell you that. Now my mom always tells me that when it starts looking like cellulite, that's when you are ready to go. That's when it should crisp back a little bit. So it's firm, it's pushing back, and it should slightly resemble what cellulite looks like. Now it's pushing back on me, and that's what I want. Now I'm just going to form it into a nice ball. Now, as you can see, it's sort of smooth, but it has little dimples in it. That kind of looks like cellulite. It's dryish to the touch. You can tell that it's moist in there, but it's dry to the touch. It pushes back on its own accord. That's perfect. So I just rinsed out my mixing bowl, and I'm going to add a little bit of either Crisco or butter to it. You could even use any kind of oil if you want. I'm just going to grease the sides of the bowl a little bit. Don't need much. Use your hands. Okay, so I'm going to put my dough in here again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with a linen towel, one with no fuzz on it, the smooth ones. And I'm going to leave it in a non-drafty, warm area for it to rise. It's going to rise for about an hour, or you're going to wait until it doubles in size, okay? So what I've got right now is I've just preheated my oven to my lowest temperature possible. And I'm gonna leave the door ajar, and I'm gonna put this in there. So obviously you turn off the oven, you preheat it, you turn it off. My oven, the lowest temperature to preheat at is 175 degrees. So it'll cool off pretty quickly, but at least it'll be a place where it's not drafty and it's nice and warm. We'll see you guys in an hour. Okay, this dough has been going for about an hour and it's happy. Look at how happy this dough is. I put some plastic wrap just on the top of it. Look how gorgeous that is. Now the sad part about it is, now you're gonna punch it down. Get rid of that air, okay? It's gonna have to rise yet again. So I'm just gonna make it into a couple little balls here. I'm just gonna cut it into a couple balls here so they're more easily manageable. And we're also gonna cover it back up. Now, we're gonna be forming these buns and they are gonna have to rise again, okay? So I've got a couple baking sheets here. And I'm going to do probably, I don't know, 12 per tray, 4 by 3 likely. So this is how you form Zwieback. You're gonna make a nice smooth dome area like this, okay? And then you're gonna use your forefinger and your thumb and you're going to pinch off a nice little ball, okay? Something like that. So you're gonna do 12 of them like that, and then you're gonna pinch off a little bit smaller ball. Something like that. These are gonna, again, double in size. So you have something that looks like it's a little bit mushroom. It's a little mushroom. So a little bit bigger on the bottom, a little bit smaller on the top. Then you're gonna take a toothpick and you're gonna pierce it right through to make sure that it's sort of attached. It's not gonna go anywhere. Now I'm gonna do this 12 more times per baking sheet, get them all done, immediately cover them with the linen towel, and put them in a non-drafty area to rise yet again. You're gonna wait till they double in bulk. It won't take another hour. It'll probably be about 30 minutes, I would say. What I try to do is do all of the larger ones on the bottom first, and then I'll do the smaller ones for the top. And then grab another piece of dough when you're ready. The key is getting a piece of dough that's the right size for you to actually work with in your hand. It takes a little bit of practice to make them look pretty. Try and keep them as uniform as you can. Now this is many years of me watching my mom and my grandmother and my aunts do this, so don't feel too hard on yourself. Make sure that that's nice and smooth before you pinch it. Now you may need some flour just for your hands so that it doesn't stick, because it might be a little bit more moist than you had anticipated, and that's cool. So just use a little bit of, like you would do brunch flour. It makes things go much easier. Grab another nice piece of dough. I think this is going to weigh way more than I anticipated, and that's okay with me. Those little pieces of the cracked pepper are really pretty in there, just like any other spices would be pretty. Okay, there's my tray of them done. I'm just going to pierce each one of them with that toothpick. Grab your linen tea towels, put them somewhere where they're not drafty, and let them double in volume again. Okay, rinse and repeat with the rest of your dough. I still have a ton of dough left. This is gonna make, I think, probably four dozen worth of these guys. My grandmother would be so proud. So you're just gonna keep tucking those ends underneath as you go so that you can still get a nice smooth surface to pull the ball out of. And to get it out, sometimes you can't get it, just twist it and it usually comes out easier. Don't worry about being perfect. These guys could take years to perfect your technique. No problem. Don't be down on yourself, just keep trudging away, you'll be fine. Every time you do it, it'll be a little bit prettier. Just finishing up my last batch. There's gonna be 4 dozen in this recipe. And I might be able to make one more extra one. 4 dozen plus 1. So we'll just move some of these over to accommodate one more. Now these buns freeze well. They are super easy to defrost and heat in the microwave. You can go from the freezer to your plate in about 1.5 minutes, all as well. These are very handy dandy little buns. Perfect. Let them rise. We'll see you in about 30 minutes. Before I do that, that's what they'll look like, and they will easily double in volume here. Okay, I have my second last batch in the oven right now, and they've baked up beautifully. We've eaten them for dinner as well. And I'm going to show you what they look like after they've proofed one more time. So that's them ready to get into the oven in about 5 minutes. They look beautiful. Check these guys out. Golden brown and delicious and lovely. I know I didn't tell you what to do to put it in. We're preheated the oven to 375 degrees. If you have convection bake, please use that. And we're just going to go ahead and in they go for 10 minutes. And they come out perfectly every time. They're nice and golden brown. Now, get yourself a spatula out. I'm not doing it quite yet. I'm gonna let them cool on the baking sheet for just a couple minutes. And then I'm gonna use the spatula just to make sure that they're not stuck to the bottom. Then, I'm gonna remove them and put them on a cooling rack to finish cooling. Anyhow, don't they look beautiful? Look at these guys, all beautifully baked and done. Look at these guys, beautifully baked and done. They're so pretty. They have a beautiful little slight sweetness. They are really moist and fluffy, nice and tender. I'm gonna, what we do is we eat them with butter. You can put jam on them, you can put cheese on them. You can even make, if you make them big enough like this, you can even make little sandwiches out of them. You can put deli meat on, you can put pepperoni on. They are really versatile and they're super tasty. So we're just gonna take the spatula and just move them so they're not stuck. You have to wait a couple minutes because if you don't, they will stick and you'll tear up your buns. Now, as soon as you can handle them, get them on the cooling rack. And my last batch is done. And that's what they look like. I love these things. This is probably my favorite thing that my mom bakes me. So these guys have to sit on the tray for a couple more minutes longer. But these guys are nice and warm, and I'm going to try one for you. We like to put butter, again, cheese, jam. You can do whatever you like. Let me just grab a small one, because I already had a couple. All right, they're nice and warm, and they peel off just like that. So you have two sides. I have the butter. My mom sometimes, she would bake a batch. And me and her could sit down and eat a whole batch together. She'd eat all the bottoms and I would eat all the tops. That's when I was little. Those are so good. They are so light and fluffy. You can see all those beautiful little bubbles in there. That's caused by the gluten. That's from you kneading that dough. Super good. A little bit sweet. It gives a nice golden hue to the inside. Usually these are pure white because we just make them with plain flour. But I like the sweet potato in there. It's just a nice little, you know, something extra, something different. A little bit extra nutrition as well. These are great for breakfast. These are great for a snack during the day. These are great for lunchtime alongside dinner, and they're even good for a midnight snack. They're especially good when you're on the go and you need something just quick to grab. You're running off in the car or you're just whatever. You can bring a couple of these and you're good to go. Anyhow, that's how you do it. That's how you roast sweet potato zwieback. I hope you guys try it. It's a pretty cool little recipe, and you have a bunch of buns now, right? Very cool. You did it all by yourself. All right, follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim, E with a capital E. Like the fan page at facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on ifood.tv/cookingwithkimberly and youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly. And my site is cookingwithkimberly.com. Come check me out on Roku as well. Be a champion in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.